Maybe. No, it's not true. One ginger ale and Jameson.
One ginger ale and Jameson?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, that was at the pink bar.
If I offered SFST right now, how would you perform?
Stop somebody. No. We've all been trained that way. You don't do FFST. We all know that.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. Today's video comes to us from the YouTube channel Real World Police, and it depicts a 2021 DUI arrest of the Alla, Louisiana police chief, Jody O'Beyer. The reason I highlighted this video is because it perfectly illustrates the privilege of law enforcement officers and provides evidence of what very few people know, which is that the proper strategy for a person's participation in a DUI investigation is not to participate. The source videos related to this arrest are in two parts, and they're around 30 minutes long, so I've edited them considerably for the purposes of our discussions. But you should head over to the Real World Police's channel to watch the videos in their entirety and to give them credit for sharing. Let's get into it.
Maybe. No, it's not true. One ginger ale and Jameson.
One ginger ale and Jameson? That's it?
Yeah, that was at the pink bar.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think you're at right now compared?
Man, I've 16-hour shift this morning, today.
No. Just where you at on impairment, you think? I'm trying to get an idea.
I mean, again, about one ginger ale and Jameson, so that's about 3. I mean, did you get a call on me a while ago?
No. We just pulled over to check on a vehicle, and I mean,
I pulled over and I had to pee so bad because we dropped her friend off at the Circle K in Monroe, and I had to pee so bad. And I pulled over, and y'all pulled up, and I was peeing, and I saw the lesson for it. And you said, Jody, and I'm like, yeah. So bad. I mean, you can call Thomas and pull that car on a record. I really don't care. But I'm fucking exhausted. I'm fucking exhausted.
If I offered SFST right now, how would you perform?
Stop somebody. No. We've all been trained that way. You don't do FFST. We all know that. If you say no, plain and simple.
Would you provide a breath sample?
We've all been trained. You say no. So we've all been trained. All of us here. All 4 of y'all. Like, you know that. Like, you won the academy before me and Matt won the academy after me. You say no. So we've all been trained.
Jody, you know you put us all in a real bad spot right now, right?
I mean, pulling over and peeing. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'll do it, but I'm gonna say no, and I mean, I'll hire a lawyer. But I mean, I know, but we've all been trained that way. You say no, I'm not gonna provide any of that, and you hire a lawyer, and it's gonna say you're guilty.
Jody, here's the deal.
I know.
You're standing on the side of the highway peeing. Okay, urinating. All right. The odor of alcohol that's coming off of you, man, is extreme. The car reeks of alcohol.
I mean, yeah, we just had 3 people in that car that I just dropped off. Well, 2 of them I dropped off in Monroe at Circle K with 2 Monroe people behind me.
So Chief O'Beyer stopped in September of 2021. He's urinating outside of his vehicle, and he's detained probably for that up front. And he's then questioned about his impairment. Now, this is a perfect example of the truth as it relates to law enforcement privilege. There is a rules for thee, but not for me approach to DUI investigations or basically any other law. Literally any traffic law, texting and driving, and a host of other things, police officers are not held to the same standards as citizens. Think of all the times you've watched officers that are subject of DUI investigations on YouTube. Almost all of them are accompanied by a comment by the arresting officers that mirror the comments made in this video. Something to the effect of, you know, you really put us in a bad spot, or something like that. And why would they say that? Well, because they don't want to say the quiet part out loud, which is that I have no issue enforcing laws on regular citizens, but I really don't want to have to enforce them when it comes to other officers. And the fact that you're putting me in what I consider to be an ethical dilemma is a problem for me, even though everybody else who's not a law enforcement officer understands that this is an unethical dilemma, not an ethical dilemma. An ethical dilemma is a choice between two rights. An unethical dilemma is where you have to try to elevate a wrong to a right in order to feel good about yourself. That's not what this is. The cops don't want to arrest other cops for one very simple reason, and that is it's justice or just us. You're either Team Blue or you're everyone else. But the messaging here offered by Chief O'Byer is 100% true. No one should ever submit to field sobriety tests. He says that every officer going through the academy in Louisiana is trained to refuse to provide a breath sample and refuse field sobriety tests. Now, why do you think that is? What do you think it actually takes to indicate impairment on a standardized field sobriety test? I bet you'll be surprised to learn. Let's talk through it. So the first of the standard field sobriety tests is called the horizontal gaze nystagmus. Nystagmus refers to the bouncing effect that the eyes have whenever a person either has some medical conditions or they're impaired. We've all seen it. What the officer does is he asks you to follow an object, typically the tip of a pen, with your eyes only. As you attempt to do this, he observes various clues about your behavior. The major ones are lack of smooth pursuit, which is basically where your eyes shake as they follow and track the object. Onset prior to 45 degrees, which means that you're having bouncing before you get to 45 degrees deviation, and then a distinct nystagmus onset at maximum deviation. So we get way out here and your eyes are going to bounce like this as you try to keep track of it. But one of the other clues, as far as it's not an official clue on the nystagmus test, but they'll tell you follow with your eyes only. And if you move your head, well, that gets counted against you under the totality of circumstances. Or if you fail to listen to the directions in some way, or you just didn't hear them or whatever, that all gets tabulated under totality of the circumstances clues, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But basically, in order for an officer to have deemed that you failed the nystagmus test, you get the three things I mentioned in each eye for a total of 6. So 4 of those 6 indicates impairment. What's next? The walk and turn. There are 8 clues on the walk and turn test. If you miss 2 of them, you're drunk, as far as the police are concerned. You can't keep balance during the instruction phase. You start before the instructions are finished. You stop while you're walking. You can't touch heel to toe. You step off the imaginary line that the policeman draws for you. Use your arms for balance. Improper turn, incorrect number of steps. All of that stuff. 2 of those, 2 out of the 8. So you only have to fail 25% of that test to be considered drunk under the NHTSA standard. And then what's the last test? The one-leg stand. There are 4 different clues, and if you fail 2 of them, that means that you're drunk. You put down your foot before the test is completed, you sway to maintain your balance, you hop to maintain balance, or you use your arms for balance. This is why I say that if I'm ever asked out of a vehicle, I'm just going to sit down. Nobody anywhere is going to be able to testify about this stuff when it relates to me getting out of the car or trying to maintain my balance. All of that's bad enough, but there are actually 3 phases to a DUI investigation that make up the decision-making criteria or the totality of the circumstances that officers use to make their decision. Phase 1 are the driving clues that the officer observes prior to the stop. Failure to maintain lane, driving too fast, all that stuff that you might use to try to indicate that a person gave you reason to stop them. Phase 2 is the interactions the officer has with the driver prior to requesting them to do field sobriety tests. This is odor of alcohol on your breath, unsteady on your feet, weaving to maintain balance, fumbling with your documents, nervousness, all that stuff. And then phase 3 is the field sobriety test. So your recognition of the fact that you're under investigation early is paramount to you not giving evidence of a crime. And this is why it's best to just remain silent. Give only what you're obligated to give, which is your license, registration, insurance on a traffic stop in most cases, and nothing else. Anything you do in any of these phases that qualify as clues gets tabulated under the totality of the circumstances analysis.
Spin around for me, Joe.
Yes, sir.
You can put me in your bag, please.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way I can help?
Ma'am,
Is there any way I can help?
call her up.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
If you have my phone, call this or handle it.
Dispatch 1015 for 35.
Don't have anything.
No, all my stuff is inside the car. Oh, Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I'm all right and everything's inside the car. No, all everything's inside the car. I literally just dropped off her 2 friends that had been drinking literally all day. Like, you can call Monroe PD. They were at Circle K in Monroe, arresting people, and I was standing there talking to them. All of them were drunk, and I was like, look, we're driving home. I had 1 ginger ale with Jameson, and we got there at 9 o'clock to started at 11, and we left 25, 30 minutes ago, and I literally did not want to stop and pee at Circle K because we dropped them off there, and I gotta pee. And I knew, well, not right here, not this one. I don't like this one. The next one up was Terrell,
Rocky or the river service.
yeah, Terrell River Service. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. I was like, oh, I can make it there. And we got over the bridge. We had a pee. And she was asleep. I pulled over right here and I got out and I was like, fucking kids.
Right.
And I peed right here. Like, that's it. I mean, I talked to them the whole time until her brother showed up and she got in the truck with him. Her friend got in the truck with her, and we come home.
Okay. Alright. Well, he's over at Fergus. He's gonna give you an opportunity to submit a breath sample if you want to.
Yeah.
If you're good and all you have is your drink, you're gonna be healthy.
Come on,
If you're
like, none of us.
if you're under the limit, we're gonna bring you right back here.
I mean, that's not true. But you know, you legally can't. Well, you legally can't.
Absolutely. If you're under arrest for suspicion of DWI, and you submit a breath sample below the legal limit.
Well, you legally can't drop someone off to their vehicle that's had at least 1 alcohol beverage. You can't do that.
If I was gonna bring you back to your vehicle to drive,
But you can't drop them off at a vehicle.
she's calling a ride, right?
But she's had more to drink than I have.
But she's calling a ride is what I'm saying. If someone comes to pick her up and you submit a breath sample that's below the legal limit, you're not over the legal limit, we're not going to arrest you for DWI. We'll bring you back here to ride with whoever you contact.
Yeah, that's what you wouldn't do that. Well, legally, you could still, when somebody come get the car. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
She's trying to make a phone call now, yeah.
yeah, but legally, that's still right.
What is? I'm not going to allow you to drive. That's what I'm saying. If you submit a breath sample, and I'm not
Yeah,
trying to
I know. No.
and
But
you're
still,
under the legal limit of alcohol.
but-
I'm not going to book you under a DWI if you submit a breath sample less than 20
yeah, but I know. I would not pick you up. That's still a really gray area.
Like I said, I mean, it's up to you, 100%.
I understand. That's still a really gray area.
Let's walk back here real quick to his unit before any cars come. I don't want to get run over. Me and Matt almost got hit just a second ago. Good?
To the Tahoe or the truck?
No, the car in the back.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it's not so much that the Academy allegedly trains officers this way that is altogether offensive. What is offensive and unforgivable in my mind is that they retaliate against citizens for flexing any right that doesn't fall under the banner of pure compliance with law enforcement demands. So cops not only get to be the arbiters of which laws to get enforced and upon whom they're going to be enforced, but they also get to decide when it's virtuous to flex rights guaranteed to us by the Constitution. Think about officer-involved shootings or any sort of use of force scenario. What do we typically see? We'll see officers telling other officers on body cam or whatever saying, well, don't make any statements until your union rep is here. In other words, don't make any statements until you're represented by someone. Well, the only version of that for us is called the Fifth Amendment. Officers get so many layers of protections when it comes to their jobs. They get civil service protection in most states. In many states, they have police benevolent associations or union associations and representatives that get to represent them. They get Garrity warnings that act as quasi-immunity agreements where they're rewarded for being honest and their statements are not used against them in criminal prosecutions, and then they also get the same Bill of Rights that you and I get. Here's the worst part. Literally no one sees it as a problem when officers utilize every layer of protection afforded to them under those various provisions. But the second you start asking questions of them, demanding answers, or choosing to be protective of your freedoms, well, you're giving them a hard time. Why not just comply? Well, this is why. This incident happened with this police chief in September of 2021, and your boy was reelected to the chief position in the fall of 2022. That tells me that it's very likely this case got dismissed. And the question is, was it dismissed because of privilege, or is there hope here for the average citizen? Well, I'm a silver lining kind of guy, so I contend there's hope. And let's just walk through the evidence and see what they had, and then we'll know how it might apply to your life. He was on the side of the road, outside the vehicle, urinating in public when he was originally detained. So we do have PC for some offense here, probably, unless the state of Louisiana doesn't have a prohibition against that, which I doubt is the case. So if we assume he's not free to leave, what are we looking for next? Put aside for a second that he's a cop. What comes next when you're detained and not free to leave before anything you say can be used against you in court? If you were thinking that he's owed a Miranda warning, you're exactly right. Now, they're clearly asking him questions. It looks to me like he's handcuffed, so that means that anything he says in response to the questions will be inadmissible in the absence of a Miranda warning. Now, they may have given him one off camera and we didn't see it, and that may be the case, but it's very likely that none of the stuff he says in this interaction is going to be able to be used against him for evidence, and that might have something to do with the fact that he was still eligible for election to chief status by the next fall. Also important to note, if the police detain or cuff you and you make some unsolicited statements, there is some nuance there, but generally those will be admissible as what are called excited utterances, and they will be used against you. Now, another problematic thing that these investigating officers say is that if the chief provides a breath sample that is below the legal limit, they'll release him. Do you think a regular citizen would be afforded that benefit for blowing below the limit? If it's true that the chief only had one mixed drink of ginger ale and Jameson several hours prior, it's very likely he wouldn't be over the legal limit anyway, although this can vary significantly across body types. But nearly every state has a secondary theory of DUI where a person can be convicted just based on the officer's testimony and observations that, based on their performance or behavior, they exhibited that they were unable to safely operate a motor vehicle. This is how most drug-based DUI convictions come about. So I can almost guarantee you that not only are you not getting released for blowing below the limit if you're a regular citizen, you most definitely are not getting a ride back to your car or anywhere else other than the pokey. In closing, I think it's important to understand that if the cops know the deck is stacked and they know to refuse the tests, then you should know to refuse the tests. See, DUI investigations are uniquely situated in that almost all of the evidence has to come from the person being investigated. It's not like you generally have witnesses. Now, in cases of accidents and stuff like that, that's different. But it's not like a burglary or a homicide or a robbery. You don't generally have other witnesses. You're oftentimes the only witness against you. So regardless of whether you get retaliated against, the less you cooperate, the less evidence they have to use against you. So just refuse. There will be consequences. They are generally, though, less impactful than the consequences of cooperating, especially if you've had any sort of substance in your system, and that includes prescription medications. In Tennessee, there have been DUI convictions for prescription use of Ritalin at therapeutic levels. This is a big money game with billions of federal dollars up for grabs, so be smart and make good decisions. Just for your information, I've linked an old NHTSA officer training update in the description. It describes the ways officers are trained to intentionally try and trip up drivers in order to catch them exhibiting clues while asking them to do various complicated multitasking assignments. It's important to understand how this works for your own protection. That's all for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment about what you think about this case. Check out some other videos on the channel and leave some comments about them as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.